In one of the most remote parts of the state, 50 miles northeast of Barstow in San Bernardino County, a small band of volunteers spent the weekend providing the most valuable resource in the desert, water, to a seldom seen species, the desert bighorn sheep. This project was paid for with a grant from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's Big Game Management account that provides money to fund projects that benefit big game populations and the habitat upon which they depend. These drinkers or guzzlers are invaluable to the desert bighorn as water becomes harder and harder to find.
In our desert environments, there's been a lot of development and history has gone on, and anywhere where there was water sources, they've pretty much been tapped or otherwise used for human use. So by adding guzzlers to the environment, it's a way of making up for past losses of natural water sources.
This all-volunteer force is from the Society for the Conservation of Bighorn Sheep, founded in 1964 and dedicated to the conservation and management of the desert bighorn.
But the bighorn sheep are very unique. They're fairly rare. They're hard to find. And I think there's something innate in human nature. We like to see big mammals on the hoof roaming around. It gives us this sense of feeling that there's always food available.
This site was chosen and permitted by the Bureau of Land Management and CDFW to replace the very first guzzler installed in this desert, Caddy number 1, more than 40 years ago.
This is the first man-made system that was put out here in the desert sometime back in the 60s, I believe. And it's been refurbished a couple different times. It had some low efficiency collection, and there's a lot of sheep use here, and we end up hauling water every summer. So we wanted to improve the system and add more storage. In the 50 years since our group has been doing this kind of work, we've come up with newer designs that are much more efficient.
The conditions of the permit allowed the society to disturb this desert habitat and dig the large holes necessary to build the large plastic water tanks that will supply all the wildlife, not just the sheep, in this area with water throughout the long, hot summers ahead. These tanks, designed by a society member, hold 2,300 gallons of rainwater each. They are fed by overlapping mats that collect the rainwater when it falls and funnels it into tanks where it bubbles to the surface and is available for wildlife throughout the year. It took 4 days of morning to night labor by volunteers to dig the holes, install all the plumbing and additional equipment, including a telemetry system that monitors water levels, temperatures, water flows, and other data to help biologists monitor the status of the guzzlers. The engineering and careful planning done by this dedicated group will give the desert bighorn sheep a real chance to survive and thrive in the harsh California desert for decades.